For nearly 30 years, Johnny Carson ruled late-night television and welcomed thousands of famous faces onto The Tonight Show stage. From rising stars to legendary icons, he interviewed them all. But behind the desk, Carson had a private list of guests he truly admired. These were the rare personalities who made him forget the cameras and simply enjoy the moment. They didn't just entertain the audience, they earned the respect of the most famous host in America. Number 1. George Burns, the legend Johnny deeply respected. Whenever George Burns appeared on The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson clearly treated him as something special. This wasn't just another guest segment, it felt like a moment with comedy history itself. Carson's usual confident hosting style softened, and he showed genuine admiration for a man he considered a true master of entertainment. George Burns represented long-lasting success in comedy. While many performers faded with time, Burns stayed sharp, funny, and confident even in old age. Johnny respected that deeply because it showed real skill and dedication, not just temporary fame. He often admired entertainers who kept improving instead of relying on past success. And Burns perfectly fit that standard. On air, George didn't force jokes or act overly energetic. His style was simple, calm delivery, perfect timing, and natural humor. Even a short pause or small expression could create a big laugh. Carson understood this level of control very well, which is why he enjoyed these moments so much. Behind the scenes, Johnny often behaved differently when Burns was present. Instead of rushing the interview or controlling every second, he allowed George to set the rhythm. It became more like a conversation between two professionals rather than a strict interview. Burns also connected Carson to comedy history. He had lived through vaudeville, radio, and television eras, making him a living link to the roots of modern entertainment. Johnny often used these appearances as a chance to learn from someone who had seen everything. Most importantly, George Burns carried himself with humility. Despite being a major legend, he never acted superior or demanding. That kind of attitude matched exactly what Carson respected in people: true talent without ego. Number 2. Carol Burnett, the guest who brought out Johnny's warmest side. Whenever Carol Burnett appeared on The Tonight Show, viewers saw a different version of Johnny Carson. The usually controlled and polished host seemed more relaxed, more playful, and more genuinely happy. There was an easy chemistry between them that couldn't be faked. Instead of feeling like a formal interview, their conversations often felt like two longtime friends enjoying each other's company. Carson admired many things about Burnett, but one quality stood above the rest: her natural warmth. Carol had the rare ability to light up a room without trying too hard. She was funny, quick-witted, and endlessly charming. But never in a way that felt rehearsed. Johnny appreciated guests who were authentic, and Carol always felt completely real. Unlike many stars who arrived with prepared stories and publicist-approved talking points, Burnett came ready to have fun. She could follow any topic, turn a small moment into comedy, and improvise instantly if something unexpected happened. Carson trusted her completely because he knew she understood timing just as well as he did. People behind the scenes noticed that Johnny often broke his own rules when Carol was on. He was usually strict about segment timing, but if Burnett was telling a great story or creating a funny moment, he would let the conversation continue longer than planned. Other guests were often wrapped up quickly. With Carol, he never seemed in a hurry. Another reason Carson respected her so much was how she treated everyone around her. Crew members remembered that Burnett was kind to pages, camera operators, makeup artists, and staff members alike. She remembered names, asked about families, and showed genuine appreciation. Johnny paid close attention to how celebrities behaved when the spotlight wasn't directly on them, and Carol always passed that test. Number 3. Orson Welles, the guest who challenged Johnny's mind. When Orson Welles appeared on The Tonight Show, the energy in the studio changed immediately. Most guests came to promote films, tell funny stories, or entertain the audience for a few minutes. But Welles brought something far different. He brought intelligence, mystery, and conversations that pushed beyond the usual boundaries of late-night television. With him, Johnny Carson wasn't just a host, he became a curious student. Carson had a side many viewers rarely saw. Behind the jokes and polished smile was a man who loved history, literature, politics, and thoughtful conversation. That side of Johnny often came alive when Welles sat across from him. Instead of light celebrity chatter, their interviews moved into deeper subjects: art, filmmaking, world events, magic, and philosophy. What made Welles special was his presence. He spoke with confidence, authority, and the voice of someone who had lived a remarkable life. Yet he could also be playful, dramatic, and unpredictable. Carson respected guests who were genuine originals, and Orson Welles was exactly that. No one else looked, sounded, or thought quite like him. Another reason Johnny enjoyed these appearances was Welles's love of magic. Carson himself had a lifelong fascination with illusions and sleight of hand. Whenever Welles performed tricks on the show, Johnny reacted with real excitement. Crew members often noticed that Carson seemed less like a television legend and more like an amazed fan watching from the best seat in the house. Unlike many Hollywood stars, Welles was also honest about failure. He spoke openly about unfinished projects, disappointments, and missed opportunities. Carson appreciated that honesty because he disliked fake perfection. Welles never pretended every chapter of his career had been a triumph, and that candor made him even more interesting. Number 4. Burt Reynolds, the guest who turned chaos into gold. Whenever Burt Reynolds walked onto The Tonight Show, everyone knew the night could go in any direction. With many celebrities, interviews followed a familiar pattern: promotion, a few laughs, polite stories, then the next guest. But when Reynolds arrived, the rules often disappeared. Johnny Carson loved that unpredictability more than almost anything. Burt understood something many stars never learned: appearing on a talk show was not just about selling a movie. It was about creating a moment. He came ready to play, joke, and surprise both the audience and the host. Carson respected guests who knew how television worked. And Reynolds knew exactly how to turn a simple interview into must-watch entertainment. Their chemistry came from competition mixed with friendship. Both men were quick, confident, and loved getting the better laugh. Instead of one person controlling the segment, it often felt like two talented performers trying to outdo each other in the most entertaining way possible. That playful tension made every appearance exciting. Reynolds also brought genuine spontaneity. Many celebrities arrived with rehearsed lines and carefully prepared stories. Burt often seemed ready to ignore the script entirely. If a funny opportunity appeared, he took it instantly. Carson admired real surprise, not fake reactions created for publicity. Reynolds could truly catch Johnny off guard, and that was rare. Some of the most memorable moments came from their practical jokes and on-air mischief. Whether it was playful teasing, unexpected props, or turning a serious conversation into complete chaos, Reynolds made the show feel alive. Instead of being annoyed, Carson clearly enjoyed it. He laughed harder, relaxed more, and often let the segment run longer than planned. Another reason Johnny liked him was that Burt could take jokes as well as give them. Number 5. Jimmy Stewart, the guest who reached Johnny's heart. Whenever Jimmy Stewart appeared on The Tonight Show, the mood became something special. Johnny Carson, known for being composed and emotionally guarded, seemed to soften in Stewart's presence. There was a visible respect in the way he listened, smiled, and allowed moments to breathe. This was not just another Hollywood star sitting on the couch. To Carson, Jimmy Stewart represented decency, humility, and a kind of authenticity that had become rare. Stewart carried himself differently from many celebrities of his era. He never seemed polished in an artificial way or overly concerned with image. He spoke gently, sometimes pausing to search for the right words, and came across as completely sincere. Carson valued guests who felt real, and Stewart always did. He never appeared to be performing a version of himself for the cameras. What made their conversations memorable was the warmth Stewart naturally created. He told stories without arrogance, laughed at himself, and spoke with the same modesty whether discussing major films or everyday life. Johnny admired stars who stayed grounded despite enormous fame, and Jimmy was the perfect example. Staff members often noticed that Carson gave Stewart extra space to speak. With many guests, Johnny kept a sharp pace and guided every beat of the interview. With Stewart, he seemed happy to simply listen. If a story took its time, Carson never rushed it. He knew sincerity could be more powerful than speed. One of the most unforgettable moments between them came when Stewart shared an emotional poem about the loss of his beloved dog. The words were simple and heartfelt, but their impact was enormous. Carson, famous for rarely showing vulnerability on air, became visibly moved. It was one of those rare television moments when the host dropped every defense and responded as a human being. Number 6. Lucille Ball. Whenever Lucille Ball appeared on The Tonight Show, it felt like two television giants sharing the same stage. Johnny Carson had become the king of late night, while Ball had already transformed television years earlier through groundbreaking comedy and unforgettable performances. Carson clearly understood who she was and what she meant to the industry. He didn't just welcome her as a guest, he treated her with deep admiration. What Carson respected most about Lucille Ball was that she was far more than a famous actress. She was a pioneer who changed the business side of television as well as the creative side. She proved that talent, intelligence, and leadership could exist in one person. Johnny admired people who mastered both entertainment and business, and Ball had done exactly that. During her appearances, viewers often noticed Carson's unusual warmth. He laughed more openly, listened more carefully, and allowed her stories to unfold without interruption. Normally, Johnny liked controlling the rhythm of an interview, but with Ball, he seemed happy to step back and let her command the room. That kind of respect was rare. Lucille also had something Carson deeply valued: professionalism. She understood timing, audience reaction, camera presence, and the pressure of carrying a successful show week after week. Both had spent years entertaining millions of viewers. So there was an unspoken connection between them. They knew what it meant to perform at the highest level for a demanding audience. Another reason Johnny appreciated her was her toughness. Lucille Ball built success in an era when women faced major barriers in entertainment leadership. She became one of the most powerful figures in television through skill, persistence, and smart decision-making. Carson reportedly admired how she earned respect in a business that often underestimated women. Even with all her fame, Ball could still be playful, funny, and surprisingly genuine. Number 7. Jack Benny. Whenever Jack Benny appeared on The Tonight Show, viewers witnessed something unusual. Johnny Carson, the man who controlled late-night television with complete confidence, suddenly looked like an admirer sitting across from his hero. Carson respected many entertainers, but Jack Benny belonged to a different category. He was one of the legends who helped shape the very style Johnny would later make famous. What Carson loved most about Benny was his timing. Jack could create huge laughter with almost nothing: a pause, a glance, a slow reaction, or a perfectly delivered line. He understood that comedy was not always about talking more. Sometimes silence could be funnier than words. Johnny built much of his own approach around that same principle, which is why he admired Benny so deeply. Many younger viewers knew Carson as the master of subtle reactions, but those close to television history understood where that style came from. Benny had perfected the art years earlier. He could let a joke breathe, wait for the audience, then land another laugh without rushing. Carson often appreciated performers who made difficult skills look simple, and Benny did it better than almost anyone. Whenever Jack visited the show, Johnny often changed his normal behavior. Instead of trying to lead every moment, he became more patient and attentive. He listened closely, laughed more freely, and sometimes even directed attention away from himself so viewers could fully enjoy Benny's expressions and reactions. That was rare for a host whose job depended on staying at the center of the spotlight. Their appearances also carried something larger than comedy: they represented history. Benny came from the golden age of radio and early entertainment, while Carson represented modern television. Watching them together felt like one generation passing wisdom to another. Johnny never forgot that many of the techniques audiences praised in him had been pioneered by people like Jack. Number 8. James Garner, the guest Johnny enjoyed like a real friend. Whenever James Garner appeared on The Tonight Show, the whole mood became relaxed and natural. There was no pressure, no awkwardness, and no feeling that anything was being performed for television. Johnny Carson, who had interviewed thousands of celebrities, seemed especially at ease with Garner. Their conversations didn't feel like formal interviews, they felt like two normal people just talking. What Johnny admired most about James Garner was how real he was. In Hollywood, many stars built strong public images, but Garner didn't feel manufactured at all. He never acted bigger than life, even though he was a major film and TV star. Instead, he spoke in a calm, honest way and told stories like an ordinary person would, which Carson found refreshing. Garner also had a very grounded personality. He didn't behave like fame changed him. He treated everyone the same way, whether it was the host, crew members, or production staff. Johnny paid close attention to how guests behaved when the cameras weren't the focus, and Garner consistently stood out for his respectful and simple attitude. On air, their chemistry was effortless. Carson didn't need to push the conversation or create artificial energy. Everything flowed naturally. James would tell a story, Johnny would respond with a light joke or a small reaction at the perfect moment. And the audience would just enjoy the smooth rhythm between them. Another reason Carson liked him was his attitude toward Hollywood itself. Garner never acted impressed by fame or status. Even when talking about big films or famous co-stars, he told stories casually, without exaggeration or ego. He made Hollywood sound like a workplace instead of a fantasy world, and Johnny respected that honesty. Both men also shared a strong sense of professionalism. They understood timing, respect for the audience, and the importance of not forcing humor. Number 9. Burt Reynolds, the guest who turned the show into fun chaos. When Burt Reynolds appeared on The Tonight Show, the atmosphere instantly changed. It never felt like a routine interview. Instead, it felt like something unpredictable could happen at any moment. Johnny Carson, who had strong control over his show, actually seemed to enjoy losing a little control when Burt was sitting across from him. What made Reynolds stand out was his playful energy. He didn't come on the show just to promote movies or answer standard questions. He came to have fun. He joked, teased, and often tried to surprise Johnny in real time. Carson appreciated that because it made every appearance feel fresh and exciting instead of predictable. Burt also understood television in a way many celebrities didn't. He knew the audience didn't just want information, they wanted moments. So he created moments. Whether it was a quick joke, a funny reaction, or an unexpected prank-style bit, he always kept things lively. Johnny respected guests who understood how to entertain beyond scripted answers. One of the biggest reasons Carson liked him was their natural chemistry. Both were quick-witted and confident, so their conversations often turned into playful competition. Instead of a strict interview, it sometimes felt like two entertainers trying to make each other laugh. That kind of balance made the segments very enjoyable for the audience. Reynolds also wasn't sensitive about jokes. Johnny often teased guests, but some stars became uncomfortable or defensive. Burt, however, laughed along and sometimes even fired back with his own jokes. Carson valued that ability to take humor lightly instead of taking it personally. Another thing that made him special was unpredictability. Burt didn't always follow the expected talk show format. He might change the tone of a conversation, add a surprise comment, or turn a serious moment into something funny.